Last video about Joe Budden. Then we'll move on to Papa. Mona takes over the Joe Budden podcast and Joe Budden gets fed up. Big up my guy, Danny from the stop. Let's hear what's happening. Because Mona, I've quite liked her. The clips I've seen of Mona, I've liked her. I've liked Mona's approach. I think Mona suits the JBP better than fucking, what's her fucking name? I even forgot her name now. Bloody hell, forgive me. What's the lady that got that left? Jesus Christ, I literally forgot her name. That's brutal. But regardless, the lady that left, I think, was good too. But her personality didn't match the boys. She's not, she can't really hang with the lads. Whereas Mona can obviously hang with the guys. So she's got a better, banter and whatever else with those guys. And I've enjoyed the clips I've seen of her so far. So let's see what's happening here. Big up Danny from the stop.
One thing he needed to do from the door is cut that hair. This probably your homie. He look like he from Jersey.
Yo, sound like you from Jersey. I'm letting y'all know Mona is my mentee. Just give her 6 months. In 6 months, we gonna get it together.
They ran her head to the wall after I told you leave Dwayne alone.
That's it, Melissa Ford, my bad. Big up Mackenzie. Melissa Ford. Fuck, I literally forgot her name. Big up Melissa Ford. I didn't mind Melissa Ford in the pod. I thought sometimes she got a bit ganged up on and bullied a little bit. But I think just in terms of her personality and how she carries herself, I think Mona, this kind of like, woman that's maybe used to hanging around with boys, might have brothers, a little bit of a tomboy. I think that personality suits these guys more, suits these guys more than Melissa Ford, which, it is what it is, I guess.
I feel you, but audience is going to be probably a 4-year process.
Mona takes over the Joe Budden podcast. On the recent episode of the Joe Budden podcast, they might have had their best episode in years, but there was a lot of hiccups along the way, and it shows the value of Mona, but also the downside. So this episode started off like any other episode, and it was really, really just normal. But then around the 2-hour mark, boy, does Mona start to take off. She would go on these wonderful isolations where her comedic flair really, really shine. And she would even do funny things like
her comedic flair, Big up Danny from the stop, but this is her comedic flair would really, really shine. Is a hilarious line to say about somebody.
Like Reed Ish's style of potting, and she was exactly spot on.
Ish frame everything, no matter what the fuck he gonna say, like it's some heavy. And then he might hit you with, he might hit you with, can I finish?
Mona's flair for comedic timing might be the thing that takes the Joe Budden podcast past the
She's good, man.
break down every other topic and just be political all the time phase. There was also some other interesting moments where the namesake of the pod, Joe Budden, would point out how he was a bit frustrated by Mona taking over the show. This was in the segment before they talked about Elliot's podcast ending, the bigger picture. So he even starts to do something really abrasive and play the music. He looked frustrated throughout that whole segment.
Jesus.
And I thought it was kind of because Mona kept rambling. And what Mona needs to do is find the pocket of how to get in and out of topics, because I think that's her biggest misstep. Now, Joe was tired of her talking.
the bit I love, Danny, honestly, don't stop. This is peaktism at work, isn't it? Breaking down people's performances on pods and what they can do to improve and how they can approach. Honestly, big up Danny from the stop, but this is peak levels of tism. I love it. Peak levels of tism.
And I think Mona sensed it, because she ended up being quiet for the rest of the bigger picture segment, only saying something until she let Joe speak for a few minutes, and then she would say a little quip there. And also Joe calls out Mona for texting.
It doesn't. Can you mark? It does. It's teams.
Mona know when to start texting basketball talk.
One thing, by the way, that I find interesting, Joe does make it very clear that it's his show, innit? I've always found that very interesting, because I don't think he could ever do a show on his own that would be as successful as the show that he does with all these co-hosts. And I'm sure he knows that. I'm sure he knows that if he had to ever sit in front of a microphone by himself and speak for an hour or two per week, he wouldn't be as successful. It would still get views, but the reason why it gets as many views as it does now is because of the different characters, the different personalities, the different viewpoints, people have their different favorites, the ones that they hate, the ones that they love to hate, bloody blah, blah, blah. But for some reason, Joe Budden truly operates in a way where he still thinks it's his show. You know, like he doesn't really. I don't know. It's an odd thing, but he's a bit of an odd one to read because he clearly pays people well, which I think shows an acknowledgement that their contribution is somewhat, you know, recognized to the show. But he does make it very clear that it's his show. I don't think he involves anybody else in the business decisions of the show. It's usually just him, Ian, big up Ian. They just kind of do the deals by themselves. He treats these guys like they're employees. That's it. They don't contribute. I mean, it's a very odd relationship. It's a very odd relationship going on there, but I could be mistaken.
That's one of the biggest things that it seems like the pod doesn't like. Well, by the pod, I mean the leadership of the pod, Ian and Joe. They feel like it distracts from the show. And I do think that they should put their phones away with maybe somebody off to the side monitoring the news and then breaking news whenever they can.
But I think that's a black thing, isn't it? Is that not a black thing? I feel like most black urban podcasters, they're always on their phone. Like they're always on their phone and eating. The only white person I see eating on stream is Hassan Piker. I feel like most black urban podcasters love to eat on camera and they love to fucking use their phone. I don't know why it is they do that. Just sit and do the show for an hour or two without using your phone, without touching your phone, without being distracted by your phone. Just lock in and do the show. It's not that difficult.
A little bit after that, Joe Budden calls out how Mona seemed dejected and not really participating in the conversation concerning sports.
Let's get Mona back in the game. Look, she all said we talk about sports.
Now, this is something that's very similar to the person that Mona would have issues with, Queen's Flip. Remember Queen's Flip? Whenever there was a time.
Yo, be at Young Old Vibes, AZ sleeps on stream. Yeah, I take sleeping on stream over eating on stream. You're never going to catch me fucking munching a whole meal on stream. Unless it's something I'm going to do specifically, I'm not going to munch a meal. Big up Game Footballer, you told me, and Saeed TV. Oh yeah, true, Saeed TV. Does Saeed TV eat on camera? Does he? Maybe I'll do the watch-longs, innit, with that biryani guy. I forgot his name. The guy that brings the biryani. I don't really see Saeed eating on camera. Don't get me wrong. Saeed, I feel like every time I see a clip of Saeed, he's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I feel like Saeed is getting fucking... I don't know. I don't know if he has real friends around him, but he needs a conversation. I saw a clip of him doing an interview with somebody. With Matisse, on Matisse's channel. I was like, fuck, Saeed is massive, bro. Like he needs someone to step in and say, hey, like lay off the fucking Gorgodash or whatever. I don't know.
Topic about sports, he seemed kind of aloof and always looking off to the side. So that's something to monitor. How long can Mona be engaged on the pod when it's a subject she doesn't necessarily care about? For example, I can't help but think about that time they were talking about Rory and Mona knew absolutely nothing and she just chimed in with generalities about the whole situation and just say, it's messed up how people come in the culture and do. Like she had that whole rant ready, but she didn't have any knowledge of the actual subject. And after that, Joe would say something pretty hilarious because earlier in the episode, he said Mona needs 6 months to shape up, but then he said she actually needs 4 years.
Jesus Christ.
So with that type of joke, Joe Budden is realizing, hey, this may not be as easy as he thought. It's going to be really interesting to see how Joe finds ways to utilize Mona as a tool and to see if Mona's even up for the molding that the Joe Budden podcast has to offer. Mona would snap a little bit later as well because she was trying to get a topic off. And there was even another situation where Mona was saying like the funny joke about Ish's hair laser treatment. And she was trying to get this joke off for like a good few seconds. Like I'm talking about damn near a minute. And they finally let her get it off, and it was magic.
Excuse me, Ish. Ish. Important question. Important question.
You gotta land the strip. They get all up in there, man.
I have a question, and it's important, and I don't mean no disrespect. Is it like when you? Because I want to get laser myself. I've been, you know what I mean. Is it like a?
But that whole situation shows how Mona is being stifled and also how hard she's trying to get her comedic flair in.
But that's not really to do with her being stifled. It's more to do with the fact that they have like 17 people there as co-hosts. That's just part of the problem, isn't it? You just have to kind of make it work. When you have like 17 different mics, like you just have to make it work. No one's gonna pour. I mean, you kind of have to like get in there, you know? And she did a good job, you know? She did a good job and got her fucking joke off. I don't necessarily think that's an issue with Mona. It's mostly to do with the podcast having loads of mics.
And this could be the reason why we see Mark fall back so much. Because a lot of people are saying, yo, Mark changed up. Mark is not the same. And that's 100% right. Mark has stepped back so he can let Mona excel. But is it like a 2-star basketball players who are letting the other person go off, but they're not playing with chemistry at the same time? And we have to remember,
maybe just run out of hot takes, isn't it? He came in sizzling hot, Mark. He was really lighting up the fucking Twitter streets and stuff. He did a good job. But maybe he's kind of fizzled out a bit. He will kind of regain and come back again. I don't even think he's purposely stepping back to let Mona shine. I just think he came in hot because he was brand new and had a lot of things to get off his chest. You know, wanting to impress, wanting to make a good impression. Got his contract or whatever. Now he's a staple on the show, and you know he's chilling.
The stain that whole flip Mark Lamont Hill argument left on Mark, because now he has to also be cautious of if he steps on Mona's toes. And I don't think he's stepping on Mona's toes. I just think he wants to make it so that she is as successful as possible. Because even if people enjoy Mark and think like, yo, he's always funny and everybody who doesn't find it funny is just stupid, if situations keep occurring where people don't get along with him, that reflects on him regardless of how people perceive it.
I feel like Danny has, I don't know, I get the feeling Danny has a little bit of a problem with fucking Mark Lamont Hill. I don't know what it is, but that little sentence there kind of, I think Danny from the Spot doesn't like Mark Lamont Hill too much. I wonder what's happening in the Twitter spaces. I think there's some sort of unaddressed friction between those two.
Then a little bit later into the show, Joe Budden talks about how he was talking with Corey about who's going to show up and show out at the pod.
Me and Corey was talking bad about each and every one of y'all.
Wow.
It's true. Look,
No.
it's true.
Not y'all.
It's true. We was.
Yeah, 2 of the funk.
It was really Corey, but I agree.
Now, this seemed like a joke, but I do think Corey is a bit of Joe Budden's henchman. And remember how Corey joined the podcast. He joined the podcast as a venting partner for Joe when Rory and Maul weren't exactly producing up to snuff for Joe and were also falling out with him. So please remember, whenever Corey is discussed in any type of way, it is something to watch and observe.
I know, I'm going to leave it there, but one thing I never understood, why do they bother with this? Like, the way Joe has these guys on like a tightrope, like these little threats of like firing, and it's like these like on-air performance reviews, and like, I don't understand it. It kind of gives me local live energy. There's bits about Joe that's kind of Keemstar-ish, with the way he pits his co-hosts against each other, and there's all this internal drama and stuff, and beef and strife. I don't know. They make a lot of money, these co-hosts, right? Some of them probably make $1 million a year, I'd say, which is good living for just sitting on the couch and, you know, talking into a microphone. But it seems like a stressful job. Joe Budden doesn't make it easy. Like he definitely keeps these guys on their toes, sometimes unnecessarily so, you know, just because he wants to ruffle their feathers. He wants to what's he saying? He wants to fucking shake the tree or whatever. Very strange, very, very strange. But hey, let's move on. Let's move on.